It's time to see if NA is going to be waving the flags of pride, which is confusing because most of them usually have like American flags, but the Canadians are doing the carrying for that region. Or if the Canadians are going to take the knee and admit that they are still part of the Great British Empire, and thus DeMu must be allowed to win. That's how it works.
Well, I shouldn't shake my fist. I'm not British. I don't know why I care, but yeah, yeah. Speaking of Brits that are, you know, not exactly as British as they could be, DeMu, all the way from Sweden, is gonna look to match up against the former British colony member that is Puppypaw, of course, from Canada, and it's gonna be King of the Hill. This map, KP, it's back.
Yeah, and you know what? I actually think this version's better than the old one. Like legit,
Oh yeah, for sure.
I think in Age of Empires 4 we're a bit over obsessed with randomly generated maps, looking randomly generated. You know what I mean? Like Lipany on ladder as an example of that. Whereas I think this version of King of the Hills, because it's a bit more consistent on the way that the mountains spawn, it has the correct character. You know, like sometimes when people talk about them liking random, it's almost like they want every map to be Dry Arabia with like a different tree. Whereas map should feel like when I look at an icon of it, instinctively it is that, and there's no weird janky behavior in how it's.
What I like in particular about this version of King of the Hill is, I mean, at the end of the day, it's King of the Hill. If you take the center, normally it's prime position to win the game. But because the hill is so spread out here in terms of resources as well, you can pivot around it a little bit more. Even if you lose direct access to the sacred site, you're not fully out of it yet. You still have access to stone and gold towards the extremities of the hill on the outskirts. So you still have very much a fighting chance to contest. So it's not as cut and dry as just, you know, full monkey mode towards the hill and then secure the win, right?
Indeed, and you know, even the things like the boar, the way they tend to split, I think quite evenly, top in the north and the south, which we're gonna see east and west in this situation. But you see the balance of it. The brand spanking new King of the Hill on show here in the EGC Masters Finals 2025. Puppypaw versus DeMu, a matchup ended up being closer than most people would expect with the hours that Benny Boy has been grinding the game. We're gonna see if Zushi's legacy can take down Puppypaw's Byzantines.
Greedy opening here for Puppypaw as well. Going with the 3 on stone here. He's just going to look to rush up those systems as fast as possible. And in theory, it should be very much doable against Zushi, right? They're likely to go for that pro scout just like China still does nowadays. But there have been a few very aggressive cheese builds, so to say, coming out for Zushi. Namely in the form of utilizing the Palace Guard.
Yeah, it has been an interesting strat. Sometimes it can backfire against things like Lombos, though, right? Like the PG get a bit too close and they get melt moded quite fast. So normally when we see the PG, it is a full bait and switch to castle play. Wonder if he's going to go pro scouts on this map or just try to play pocketed economy, considering pro scouts' recent nerfs, and also how difficult it should be because of that to get the enemy deer back home and feel like there's much value in it.
Does appear like the spawns, I mean, it's pretty nicely mirrored here, right? We have, there's no clear advantage for either one. As normally the case on King of the Hill, especially the EGC version here. Both deers towards the side, the boars within equal distance to either player, depending on the side.
I mean, even the ores, like look at the ore placement. Like starting ones are a little bit scattered, but the hill is perfectly balanced, which I think is a nice big change. I think that matters a lot. Like we've all been there, we play King of the Hill, and it seems like all of the ores are on your side, which means you can't keep drop to contest your opponents. It's a horrible feeling. Whereas here, both players got an equal footing if it comes down to castles and outpost placements on the hill.
And we see that hill that we're referring to about, right? The biggest difference between the old version of King of the Hill and the one we are using here today is we see that opening, right? Normally there's a direct path from your face up towards the center and top of the hill. But here we have a fork in the road. You can either go left or right. But centrally, you just have another cliff blocking your way. So I think this creates quite an interesting dynamic as to which way you decide to lean into exactly. can see it's not like one side is completely advantageous over the other. We have the 4 golds, 2 on top of the hill, and 1 on either side, and then the 2 large stones towards the flanks of the hill.
Yeah, it's just an overall big improvement. Like another thing that's really important about that change is it really deviates from the standard play of like building siege on the way to the sacred site and then capturing it. If you want to be in good position and not exposed, you need to build your siege on the sacred site. That's a very different timing in a game. Whereas, like, if you remember, it used to be before, people just go straight up the ramp. You couldn't really harass them. Now, like, if they 50-50 coin flip the wrong way, they're going to get sniped, which I think is important for this map. It's just an overall improvement considering that, you know, historically, most King of the Hill games have come down to who has more siege.
Am I seeing that correctly? That looks like quite a conservative little meditation gardens. Does it touch the gold is the question.
I think so. Yeah, it's in range.
Yeah, it should do, right? Okay. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, there we go. It just touches it, right? That's perfect. And this is kind of the best you can hope for, really, here. We got the 6 stack of berries. Good, chunky amount of wood as well as that gold. So you can't really hope for a better one in most maps, in most games, let's be honest. So then we're going to be pretty happy with that one. Now, judging by that float, it's most likely going to be pro scouts here, isn't it? Very, very standard as expected here for Zushi. Although typically, I think even in the past, you know, if Byzantines are not heavily contested in feudal age by Zushi especially, which can be difficult considering you just simply do not have access to an archer, and Jugenu are inherently countered by longbows, it can make it pretty hard to deal with once that longbow count reaches critical mass.
Yeah, it sucks for multiple affairs, right? Like you mentioned the Duke getting beaten by longbows, Palace Guard and Feudal get beaten by longbows as well. Even if you actually vet on both sides, longbows contest men-at-arms strats a little bit better than the standard archers, and PG are armor-wise a little bit weaker. But it looks like we are going to get that full naked rush, and I'm assuming we're going to be looking at a castle into knights play here from DeMu. The question is, do we get him role-playing himself in-game with the Bull Monks, or is it going to be the more popular Mount Luke?
Yeah, this straight castle rush is very old school, isn't it? We've seen this a lot right around the release of Zushi. And the timing is undoubtedly incredibly powerful. We can see he's already getting close. He's going to be up before minute 6:30 at this rate. The fastest castle age timing in the game, bar none. No one's even close to the sheer pace. But the follow-up is difficult, right? Because your economy, especially without being fueled by deer, is a little bit stagnant, I want to say, because you have so many things to invest into. I mean, the monks themselves, 200 food a pop is a hefty price tag. And, you know, typically you want to go into lances as well. That's another lot of food that you have to invest into, another 140 as well as the 100 gold. So it feels very difficult to afford everything you want to, especially at the pace that DeMu is aging. You know, it's not out of the ordinary to see age up with 3 or 4 to that castle just because of the sheer speed you have anyway, but DeMu just going all out. He wants those relics.
You know, the question mark is going to be, how safe do you feel around your food? When can you access it? And I think with this spawn, like, he's going to be feeling pretty content. Because the other thing about this version of King of the Hill, you don't really get those weird little breaks in the cliff lines. So, for example, the deer on the east side, very easily wallable, very safe for him to lean into once he starts to run out of food.
Puppypaw did make some preemptive spears here, right? In anticipation of either warrior scouts or a lancer timing here from DeMu, which is not going to be on the cards just yet. Before those longbows come out here for DeMu, those Shaolin monks will very easily be able to pick up those relics and contest 1 to 2 spears without any issues, being so capable in those fights, right? So DeMu, I think he's just going to double down on these monks, just try to vacuum up the relics ASAP, and then look to sort of consolidate that lead and play from then on. But honestly, even if he gets all 5 relics completely uncontested here, I question whether that's actually enough to fully, you know, match up to the pure boom that is Byzantine uncontested tempo.
I mean, to play devil's advocate there, it's golds plus lots of wood on a map that's dominated by siege. You kind of see the problems here that could emerge from Byzantines. Like, I think for Puppypaw, it's going to be critical to start thinking about castle, because I think cataphracts are going to become crucial to surviving this timing that I think DeMu has in mind.
Yeah, it's true. Those cataphracts are definitely going to be the great equalizer when it comes to siege. Byzantine's not known for their siege, of course, whereas Zushi, not as potent as China, but they still have access to that nest of bees, which especially when you are essentially forced purely by map design to fight in one spot to contest for the victory with that sacred site. That is when they really start to shine.
And we have
Puppy.
got Pascal coming in, by the way, which is a great call
Yep.
here. Like, Puppypaw, he's chosen to take the aggressive line. Puts him out of position against heavily armored.
And we don't see a horticulture priority here from Puppypaw, which is normally quite favorable for the Byzantines, because you do want to gather those berries, but those berries, of course, not the best food source in terms of sheer gather speed, so horticulture is going to help you offset that a little bit whilst getting a decent castlage timing. An argument can be made that the actual attainment of that upgrade can delay you more than you'd like anyway. Puppy's going to look to put on the pressure here. He understands the weakness of Zushi's legacy in stretching themselves so thin resources-wise with such a fast castlage timing, and might pick himself up a villager for his boldness, and so he does.
Yeah, good step there to follow up. Only half the Lombos need to fire. He does at least draw first blood on the worker count, but DeMu is starting to inflate that Pascal count, and Puppypaw has not even begun the age up yet. On top of that, we have got the third and fourth relic coming home. It's going to be an intercept. Warlord gets activated, but Body of Iron will protect him against all threats here. The Pascal backing this up. It would be dangerous for Puppypaw to try to directly go after the monk.
This is a nice pivot though here from Puppypaw towards the right side of the map. You can't just sit in your base and try to raise castlage ASAP whilst ignoring the relics, ignoring the palace guards. That is when this timing becomes really, really dangerous. But if you can sort of distract these palace guards, drag them around the long way towards your base without giving over too much, except just a few Limitane here as a buffer, that is when the castlage timing can be matched. And, you know, Puppypaw is going to have his second batch now at the ready on the defense. Damage is going to start ramping up, and he should be able to kite at least a few of these palace guards without too many issues.
Ranged armor is coming in from DeMu. Wonder if he'll just try and switch in a few lances here to catch him off guard. The spearmen are being thrown away intentionally because Puppypaw, as you highlight to the Lombos, like, it's just his wing con. If you can get 20 plus of those, he has a way of dealing with this. He has got some way to go on reaching that raw count. And get a third group out if he chooses. Definitely has the olive oil for it. Asgard reinforcements now starting to arrive. The berries are in danger here. Puppypaw probably going to be forced off of them next few seconds. And away he goes, shivs out. Akratoy activation with a bonus damage. But right now, he's idled out. The Golden Horn Tower is not being built anymore. He built it on the front side of the base.
Yeah, the greed is pretty obscene here from Puppypaw with this positioning. It can really bite him back as the Palace Guard number is actually climbing incredibly fast here for DeMu, and the level 2 undermesh is in already. This is the sort of timing he was looking for. This is how you leverage this lead. You know, I was a little bit worried for him initially because there were no Palace Guards for a long time, just the relic priority. We were questioning the efficacy of that in terms of economy in the long run, but it turns out it doesn't matter if you hit the timing anyway. The Golden Tower will go up, but at a heavy price of idle time. A couple of villages likely going down as well. One did not go down just yet. Very nice pull away.
He's not though. Puppypaw gets clubbed down on a second. Remember, no Akratoy, so you can't use them as a last line defense. Lombos aren't being upgraded yet by Puppypaw. He doesn't have the resources for it. This is tough, man. Like, the Sacred Site time has already begun. So even if this fails now, DeMu has the backup plan. That's always the ace up your sleeve when you take the hill first.
Yeah, the edge up has finished, and finally we have the resources necessary to get in that veterancy in the contract, but you know, there's not enough to even get a cataphract out here. He's gonna try to get a Varangian guard to at least be a little blocker to the march of these palace guards, but a lot of damage has been caused. 4 villages went down. Plenty of idle time. Yeah, the longbow mass is also dwindling.
I think he survives this. I am more paranoid about what DeMu's doing behind this. Right? Because it's going to be more than just Palace Guard to follow this up, surely. He's just shifted out towards the Deers. He's on both Deer
double
stacks
deer now. Yeah, that's a massive influx of food for DeMu at this point in time. Allows him to actually continuously keep up this pump. I mean, realistically, if this rally doesn't stop, Puppypaw is just not going to be able to ever have the gold needed to get out the cataphract, which is what he really needs to deal with these palace guards. But looks like DeMu is actually going to take his foot off the pedal for now.
Yeah, for a switch. He's got Lancers queued up. I was wondering if he's going to try this. Like, there hasn't been Limitane. He's now just seeing Varangian. Gives him the answer. And also on top of that, just look at the amount of gold he's already getting here. 5 relics, sacred site, hell of a lot of infinite gold splashing in each minute.
Exactly right. And, you know, sure, Puppypaw will now be able to get out those cataphracts, but being so stunted in the speed of getting to those cataphracts means that this Lancer switch, you know, we're going to have a case of where there's probably double the Lancers to the number of cataphracts at the least. And those are numbers that the cataphracts can really deal with.
That was an ambitious Rangian, right? I wouldn't have, like, if I drew that short straw, I would just basically try and snap the stick of someone else and say they're the short straw. So rest of the army is going to walk home. We do have those catters now coming, but DeMu is eclipsing the timing by the looks of it. This is ridiculous. Galley horses and soon to be 10 lances.
Yeah, the pup is unreal on those double day. I think, if I'm not wrong, they're both being supervised as well at this point in time. So much food coming in for him. And, you know, it's not as efficiently gathered as Pro Scouts, but at the same time, you don't lose any food on those days. In fact, you gain a severe profit because of that supervision. So DeMu really leveraging that. As the full Lancer switch is in effect, Dalios is going to finish any moment now. Even Bloomery might come up behind this quite soon for him. This mass here from Puppy, does he have enough? There's no level 2 range damage in for him yet. So hard to afford everything.
They can just about reach those workers, but they're
nice
already
reactions
done
by
gathering.
DeMu.
Yeah, it was actually ideal timing. They just finished the deer anyway, so they didn't need to go back there. This is tricky. There is a timing, I think, that Puppypaw can ruin for DeMu's, which is like, he's probably going to shift ore afterwards, which is very greedy. Actually, no. Look at this. He's just straight up going Jiangnan,
Yeah.
so he's not going to risk it. He's going to try to get a farm transition going.
Yeah, this is the sort of safe option, right? I mean, you know, Song for Zushi's legacy doesn't really generally feel as good as it does for China. Speaking of, though, I mean,
Ooh,
that's quite a nice catch there. Catching the longbows right as they come out the mercenary camp, and that opens up the way to the groves as
This
well.
is huge. This is absolutely huge. He's already on the farms. He's ironing out the TC. The gold's underneath and gathering right now. The Sacred Site decap at least would have been some of Puppypaw to look forward to, but he got blocked there as well. And this many Lancers can flood over those longbows with full simplicity. Dives towards the gold location. If Puppypaw bails, moves away, then the workers are toast. He aggro-toys up. He tries to man up. But against this many Lancers, you know there's going to be losses. And too many for him to count. GG called. DeMu giving a classic one of his masterclass Zushi performances.
One of his favorite civilizations piloted with beautiful efficiency here in this game number 1 for DeMu. A quick 16-minute victory here, opening against a player who most people would pin as favored up against him. Not only, you know, just in terms of reputation, in terms of the game's skill, but also historically, right? The record is definitely in Puppypaw's favor when they have met before. But DeMu, as you mentioned, he has been grinding. And it is paying off, picking up a quick first win here, and now carries the tempo. Puppypaw gonna have to go back to the drawing board again. We spoke before, right? Byzantines, not a sieve you want to lose with. So it's a painful loss here for Puppypaw in game number 1. This wasn't a throwaway.
Dark Horse rises. He's looking good for it. And correct me if I'm wrong, he was on the right side in the draft, right? So Lancaster next? Are you kidding me? How does that even sneak through the draft? I mean, there is a realistic world in which he's 2-0 up, if that is his Lancaster pick. It's not a free cruise against Ottomans for sure, especially on a map like Kerlaugar. But DeMu, confident opening this series and already looking like the type of player that could slay Puppypaw. Like, it's got to be said, like, the improvement rate in the last few weeks has not gone unnoticed. And this is already starting to prove.
In game number 1, right, it's very important. It really sets the tempo for how it goes from then on. Quite often, the opening game is really important because you don't really know what your opponent is gonna pick unless it's a very specific kind of a map. Like, I'm not sure if Puppypaw fully expected Zushi to be one of the civilizations of choice, right? So often, game number 1 is very important because of that. You often pick a very potent civilization that doesn't have too many bad matchups. But then, when this is how game 2 looks like, with Lancaster on one of their best maps, in one of their best matchups, This is very scary all of a sudden for Puppypaw, I have to say.
Yeah, like the picks was Lancaster, Knights Templar for DeMu, and then Tuklak, Ottomans for Puppypaw, and then the snipes came in like this. So, you know, Puppypaw seemed to feel less threatened by this than like Knights Templar as a possibility. I still think this is just as like damning of a pick. I mean, it's such a powerful one, and you're right, it probably is the best map in this rotation. I still think Cliffside is the #1 map. Obviously not seeing it here. So like the only other place that like they could look empowered more than normal, I would say, is maybe Frisian. They can play the maps like Dry Arabia, right? But like we're looking for the map where they feel better, and this could be the place. And the thing I love about this for DeMu is now Knights Templar being reserved for not necessarily Frisian, but even Aleppine or Dry Arabia. They've started to look a lot better on land. Is the interesting discovery people are coming to? Is like actually 2TC might be back on the menu for that series. See if they come up later.
Yeah, it could be an interesting little pivot, right? Considering the way the manners work nowadays as mini Ark and Chapels for that matter,
they're
essentially.
ridiculous. They're ridiculous.
It's quite interesting. It leads to a very curious scaling point for Lancaster that's not fully explored yet. We'll see how that works out in the future. But even the classic old school way of playing Lancaster is still almost as potent as it was before. I'd say it got the tiniest shave. It's like when you go to the barber and, you know, oh, just a little off the top, please, mate. And it's, you know, it just looks the same as it did before. It's like,
he
what
just
did I
pulls
pay
a
my money for
single
anyway?
a single hair and just cuts it. It's like, that'll do. Yeah, like, we got the look, and I agree.
Yeah,
like
looking fresh, mate. Yeah.
The crazy thing is like they've nerfed scaling mass manners, but legitimately 1-2 is still like it's better than it was before. Now, what I find intriguing about this is like Ottomans in theory should like contesting a feudal all-in force. That's what's going to make this an interesting matchup. This, even before the changes to Lancaster, was one of the matchups that it really did come down to execution. It wasn't just an outdraft. And we know Puppypaw is no slouch, no pushover of a player, but this is going to be fireworks. I even wonder, are we going to see fishing, right? Like, did you even bother? Because the other cool thing about that one mana strat on this map is you start with Deer underneath your TC. You start buffed up. So let's see if DeMu can start buffed up, chest puffed up in the EGC Masters Finals groups, as he's already leading this series against Puppypaw. He looks to extend it with the House of L's that really needs to be renamed to the House of W's.
Puppypaw with balls of steel, honestly, allowing Lancaster through in this matchup on this map as well. Must know something that we don't. I mean, historically, Lancaster, especially here, has looked absolutely unstoppable against Ottoman, frankly. But like you mentioned, I really think that Feudal Age is a little bit underexplored, because I don't think Ottomans are helpless against them whatsoever. The Sepahi, even with the Lords, buffing the Hobolars are just way more potent. And against full melee can be very dangerous as long as Ottomans have just a few spears, again, to serve as that frontline buffer for the Sepahi range to really come in effective. And the Mehter can be the great equalizer to those Lords. But the issue on this kind of a map, as we mentioned, is the fishing, which can feel a bit of a trap in this kind of a matchup as it slows you down immensely. And of course, that crossing distance is so low, which is fantastic for House of Lancaster when it comes to those slow Lords, because you blink and all of a sudden they're on your gold, and those guys 3-shot villagers.
Yeah, especially when you consider the gold positions. They're also quite often on the front side of your base, so you're even quicker to be exposed. But I agree. I think like those moves that could be made here by Ottomans, this is pretty interesting stuff just because of the meta's effect with melee armor. Like usually Lancaster comps lean into melee, so the melee armor is insanely valuable because like a Hobolar is a lower base damage horseman anyway. So percentage-wise, you're crippling more of their DPS. It's a pretty powerful civ when you then add in the healing. But we'll have to see if they get to that point. DeMu is already trying to be a pain in the arse here. We have got an opening spear play to stop Puppypaw even sniffing the gold.
I think this is really smart here from DeMu, right? Not only do you block the gold, but you also block any kind of dock play, forcing a barracks out of Ottomans in this kind of a matchup. It just doesn't feel good. It really doesn't feel good, especially because, frankly, you would rather avoid going spears, especially early on as Ottomans here. Because until that Hobolar count becomes just oppressive, like in a full melee blob, you don't really need them that much. The Sepahi will do more than fine up against them and the Lords up until the spear count gets too high for DeMu. So this just doesn't feel good here for Puppy to do, but it feels like he kind of has to, not being quick enough on the draw with that gold.
Spoke as well. But good reactions there. Puppypaw got the garrison at the perfect moment.
Nice.
So first blood drawn. DeMu probably doesn't want to contest this anymore. The fourth spearman is out. Now, the balance here, the thing you got to be careful of is you are inflating the vizier point timing. So I would be surprised if DeMu goes for any more spearmen than this.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to invest too much. It's about getting enough of a delay to the point where you delay the opponent more than yourself, which is very much doable here for Lancaster. A big part of it is, of course, that additional sheep gathering rate buff, the only civilization in the game to have one like it, except if you count, Golden Horde's stockyards nowadays, but that's a bit different. Puppy now has the advantage in numbers. Up until that fifth spearman for DeMu join is going to look to secure his gold. But the delay can be felt. Although DeMu himself actually a little bit slow to transition to his own gold, it looks like.
Yeah, really slow, actually. Like, this is kind of risky. He does, of course, have the short bows. And he's got what? Yeah, four villagers should be enough to keep him safe here. But you want to be fighting, like, maybe nearer to the goal so they can assist you. He's just trying to out-micro him. Okay, DeMu. Trying to show the Micro Master skills. And Puppypaw, what was that panic? Oh, no.
Yeah, he saw the sixth spearman join, right, and was just a little bit slow to pull away, resulting in the formation shuffling actually working out against him in this case, as DeMu beautifully starts kiting his spearman forward at the same time as Puppy shifts them, resulting in one falling very quickly. And the second one might be soon to follow here if the charge does come through. Puppy actually, behind this, he didn't even go onto the gold KP.
No, he's only now doing it because look what he's doing. He went for a fishing boat play. He dropped a dock, and he can't sneak the back gold. Because look at what DeMu's doing. He's scouted the back gold. He's intentionally camping there in case you try. Spearmen now go in with full conviction. Reformat to move away. Has got some heavily injured boys here, but there's no bows to be leveraged for the Ottomans. So Puppypaw has to add in additional spears to feel safe while DeMu is busy teching. And the funny thing about this, it's an Abbey of Kings on the front side of the base. DeMu can take these heavily injured spearmen and top them off.
Every single one, and they'll heal way faster than the imams do, which are still some way out. I mean, not long to go for the vizier points. However, with this stock play, it's so greedy, KP. It's so greedy. The age up is going to be immensely delayed. I mean, Demu's going to finish aging up before Pop even starts his age up. And those loads are going to come. He's going to get pushed off of gold again. No doubt about it whatsoever. So the economic upgrade is going to be shorter, slower. The military upgrades from the blacksmith will be slower as well. And the follow-up for Demo, what would that look like? I mean, in this position, right, when you're so ahead like this, and the opponent has so many spears, you might as well just go straight into the Omen.
Quite possible. I think step one, obviously getting that mana set up. If you check the back as well, I think DeMu, he didn't shove the deer in like Puppypaw did. Because the deer is situated near the tree line. Yeah, so if you just mana here, the deer's already going to be close enough as a follow-up. Obviously, you don't want to go to it in a rush because your gathering rate off of sheep by default is better. But there you go. Remember, manas are drop-off buildings now. And for every worker in range of this thing, you will get an extra 6 resources. Now, you got nerfed from 105 resources down to 40. But that means with just 10 workers in range, you're still the original mana. Look at the count. You don't need to be great at math to see that is more than 10.
It feels very, very nice as well, right? Because typically you only need to go for 2 manas now to get a very comparable amount of resources per minute that you would get from the previous mana. So it saves you a fair bit of investment still, even with the more expensive manas nowadays. Now the Imams are on the field, so Demu has to be a little bit careful about his positioning here. I won't overextend too much, but the gold is denied, right? That's the main goal here. Does Demu know about that dock, though? He must smell something is up, right? Due to the sheer delay on this age up. Does he know?
Lord here. You do have the healing, right? So, like, eventually, Demu's going to have to consider a walk away, but... The problem is you just can't gather gold through this. Yeah, so he doesn't know about the dock, but, like, the problem now is Puppypaw's got a lot of food. You already mentioned the tech problem, though. Sipahi is strong, but they're really enabled by these blacksmith timings.
Yeah, exactly, and yeah, as I thought, right? It just makes so much perfect sense on this map. The distance, the speed of the yeoman as well, combined with the heavy investment into those spears from Puppypaw results in yeoman looking so much more tempting as opposed to those Hobbler initially. Hobbler will likely still come out later, but we already have 3 lures on the field with the 4th one in queue, and double range follow-up here by DeMu. It means that Puppypaw will be hard-pressed to have any gold access. Now, on Kerlaugar, we do always have that safe gold mine tucked away at the back of the base. But even just going to it and switching to it, it's costly. Not only the idle time for the villagers to go there, building the camp, then starting to get the gold rolling in again. But then, of course, when Hobbler start coming out, that becomes pretty unsafe too.
Yeah, and he's even setting up a galley, so he's paranoid about getting struck at on that side of the map. The ring of roses from the spearman there. Not ideal. He's at least taking some of these spears down, but it's difficult to hang here. Like, really, if you want to engage this DeMu, you want to be sure that your lords are the first thing getting hit. Because the spearman's health bars deplete a bit too fast.
Actually, Puppypaw even invested into a war here as a blocker to any kind of ship play from DeMu, which sure keeps him safe if there's any ships from DeMu, but do you really ever expect Lancaster to invest into water here with an actual dock? No, let's be honest, no you don't.
Maybe an Imperial, you know, like
maybe an Imperial. Yeah.
The good old Catholics with the pride of the Navy.
Oh yeah, that, oh god. Oh,
at least they nerfed it. They nerfed it, all right? Like, it's not as ridiculous.
True, it's only slightly the best ship in the game now, not
whoa,
by far.
Whoa, how dare you? All right, Puppypaw could build the ultimate boat. It's the Ottomans after all.
It's true. You can set up the military schools on the shores of DeMu, right, and start creeping in Sipahi there.
Yo's are looking pretty good though, and Puppypaw is getting the correct reaction. My concern is Steel Arrow's already there. He hasn't got undermesh. This is the time to sneak his back gold, actually. Like, it's not being guarded anymore. It's not being camped. With infantry, you can't really get around there. Sipahi are going to try to cut some reinforcements. I even be able to idle out the gold of DeMu.
Yeah, that's a nice little start. This is what you need to do here as Puppypaw, right? You gotta look for those reinforcements. Look for that idle time to try to equalize some of this deficit in economy that you find yourself from the sheer idle time that has been caused to you. Blacksmith now coming up as well, but there's still been no shift onto that gold. He managed to get himself a double broad axe, which is a great start, but we will need a lot more than that here as Puppypaw. Now, one piece of solace for Puppypaw here is that DeMu has went really ham on the aggression here to the extent that he's actually skipping his economic upgrades in favor of his blacksmith upgrades, which, you know, in extended feudal, if you can find the timing to take a great fight, is great, but that's not really the case yet. Puppypaw hasn't really lost a lot of his military yet, so in these cases you would rather have the economic upgrades for DeMu, but he's going to look to force the issue, it looks like, as he begins pivoting around towards the back of Puppypaw's base.
It is risky going around the back of infantry like this. This is usually where Sipahi peel back games all the time. Cutting off those reinforcements, you know. Your yeomen are quick, sure, but you do in some ways still have the same weakness that a longbow pick would in this situation. Obviously a little bit faster, but nowhere near as quick as the light cav. Nice sneak out there, denies one of the fishing. I think Puppypaw, did he have villagers out on the gear? They got unseen. And, oh, speaking of villagers, Sipahi, they actually go in. DeMu using the short bows. Because he's got the steel arrow and there's no undermesh, it is impactful damage. DeMu still the only person to net worker kills so far in this game.
Yes, and with the steeled arrow in for DeMu, the Sipahi dies so quick to the arrow fire, as well as the short bows to Sipahi, in exchange for fair bit of idle time, admittedly, but no actual kills. So, in the short term, this kind of stings if you are Puppypaw, when military numbers are so important at this stage. Gonna look for another raid with these additional Sipahi. Does discover that DeMu is on those berries, but there are spearmen in position now.
I mean, Puppypaw, he is noticing that DeMu is pretty aggressive on the berries, which suggests food is drying up fast. So, like, there is still a world in which he can raid effectively here. I think DeMu is just looking more for that convergence point. So he's diving in towards the backside. He's also starting to macro up. So Castle is now on the menu. And I don't know how you feel about this. I think King's College is just trash now. I don't know how economically a Lancaster player can easily get that landmark.
It's very situational, I think. You know, it's difficult to find the justification for it when you think of the text, right? Ideally, you need to be able to invest heavily into those knights for the Color of S's or heavily into those Hobbelars, right? That's kind of the only real instances that you gain value from it. Speaking of value, though, DeMu, as we were talking earlier, it could be dangerous to move with infantry behind the base. Fishing ships have been picked off, but he is cornered up against the edge of the map. And he's gonna lose his entire military KP at the front here in exchange for, frankly, very little here.
Yep. This is the classic issue. Like, yes, your yeomen are quicker than Lombos, but you still have the same weakness that English does in this situation against the best light cav in the game. Puppypaw finds the punish point. DeMu's only choice now is going to be to go castle, surely. He's still macroing up towards it gradually. He's trying to remaster Lords in the meantime. But he now has to hunker down and weather the Ottoman storm.
This is such a horrific position to be in, right? You go a little bit aggressive with your military to buy yourself a buffer for that castle edge, and you end up just overextending a bit, resulting in your entire forward force getting cleaned up, and now you're stuck halfway towards needing the resources you need for that castle edge, and all of a sudden, you have an Ottoman military feudal coming in towards you on a very short map with a front gold, and even if you fully reinvest now, you can never actually hope to keep up with the numbers that Puppypaw is now fielding. So really, DeMu's only choice is to keep committing to this age up. It looks like it's going to be reinvestment. That's the safe alternative, but you know, you kind of essentially you need Puppypaw to blunder in this position.
That's the thing, and Ottomans is one of the best civs at diving the TC and feudal age you will find in the game. The Sipahi is just so good in its own, but then things like the meta with the healing behind it as well. Like, there's just so many complementary elements here to make your life harder. DeMu, he's still trying to scale for it, though. He's actually just trying to see if he can sneak the backside here with the berries and the gold, but Puppypaw seems to be aware of what's happening. He's got a double attack about to occur, and DeMu, this could backfire for him. He engages the north side army. The Sipahi here now sneaking in towards the tree line. Is DeMu even looking at it? Try to find out. Does move away. For Sipahi, with the attack speed activate, they can do a lot of damage here. The damage does get spread quite evenly, so it minimizes the losses down to just 2. The army does scare him out, but that's still worker kills that Puppypaw is finding.
Don't blink when Sipahi enter your wood line, or before long there will no longer be a wood line, a wise man once said. As DeMu, after reinvesting, does have the yeoman numbers now to contest this infantry force on the left side, as they have been separated from the Sipahi. But, I mean, even one Sipahi is enough to do so much damage here and soak up so arrow fire that DeMu doesn't feel fully confident about standing his ground. Very few spears in position as well. And yeah, the Sipahi were looking to reconnect from the right, but the spears were on the chase.
Good time to break away as well from Puppypaw. Understanding that, like, you know, he wants to kind of scare DeMu a little bit because the yeomen are quicker than his archers, so retreats can cost you dearly. Interesting that Puppypaw hasn't moved the archer ship upriver a little, as it does outrange yeomen, so it can be a threat point. Instead, just goes to the hard commit. Sipahi a little bit overly eager here, considering the lords are fully holdened up. They've got 4 in total, which means 20% more health to DeMu's army.
Yeah, you do still have to be very careful here as Puppypaw, especially on the offensive, right? DeMu has the prime composition on the defense. He can't really get better than this, especially with the lords. So, you know, on DeMu's side of the map, you will be outmassed militarily as well. But this is what you need, right? Pull him away towards the river. Have the Dao helping out as well. DeMu actually sneaks in the age up that we were talking about earlier behind this. So, not looking nearly as bad as it was looking a while ago.
Yeah, and he's using it... this will feel a bit bad. He's using it in the back corner to secure some berries, right? Not the best white tower, but, like, he just needs the age up. He needs a little bit of safety and security. So scares Puppypaw fully away. It's not even full berries, man. Like, wait, is that the small 2-stackers? Yeah, so he's got 10 berries in total. It's not too bad. It's 2.5k food. But the Elsguard now going to spawn. That'll be a nice little buffer for him. But Puppypaw is going to mirror this now. Castle just a few moments away from being triggered.
DeMu would have loved to have that white tower up directly smack bang in the center on top of that large gold, the berries as well as the deer. But yeah, it's a risky move, that's for sure. As Sipahi look to go on the gold. DeMu mostly shifted towards the back gold at this point in time. So Puppy will only find 2 villages, but 2 villages it is nonetheless. And he's going to look to dive even deeper, bolstered by his find. What else can he find here? As he goes directly to the manor. Now there are farms in position. Picks up another 2
4-2.
very easily. Make that 3. 4 even. That's a lot of kills here for Puppy. Picking up quite a nice economic lead at this point in time.
Okay. I love that. Puppypaw didn't split himself on the 2 sides, and he's now going to discover the white tower the hard way. I.e. diving it, which is not what you ever want to do. Fishing as well from DeMu, man. Oof. Getting desperate.
That's a nice thing about that white tower. It also kinda secures those back fish that spawn on Kerlaugar as well, on each side of the river. You know, DeMu continuing to swell those yeoman archer numbers.
Need to get the hand of God going, you know?
Oh,
the Wrath of Heaven, Arrow Rain.
Quite an expensive upgrade, but that will pay fruit here for sure if he gets it. There's a good range mass from Puppy, and there's a Springald priority on the Mechmed Imperial Armory as well. And, I mean, the shot will do great against the Springald as well.
Yeah, interesting that DeMu didn't stop off near the Abbey of Kings just a little bit to top these guys off, because that's a lot of weak troops waiting to just be finished. Instead, he felt that the timing was urgent here. Let's dive in towards the base. And punish Puppypaw before his upgrades come through. Veterancy on archers 30 seconds out. The Sipahi are about to trigger their upgrade. You just about to see the effect coming in, which should signal that something's not right. Where's that second wave? It's coming in from behind here. There are not many spearmen for DeMu. So Puppypaw, he can cut him off, but in the meantime, he's just taking his sweet-ass time about it. The raid on the back, completely unnoticed. Puppypaw not forcing the fight, milking the fact that it's yet to fully happen.
There's only so many attack pings that you can pay attention to in an Age of Empires 4 game. And DeMu completely misses that on his back, as all of his gold villages are completely neutered. And now he's going to look to dive and make something happen here, but it never feels good. There's no front line left. He's going to just sacrifice the yeoman for as much eco damage as possible. But against Ottomans with military school set up, this doesn't really feel that good.
But he's got manners. Myriad, he's got 1 mana, and it's not going to give him much resource either. More people around the mana are having to mind their manners here as he continues to hemorrhage workers. His military force fully depleted. I mean, this looks like the point where Puppypaw can do no wrong.
Yeah, DeMu playing an incredibly aggressive game here, and in this case, one might even argue maybe slightly over-aggressive, right? No priority on most of his eco upgrades early on in that game. Very heavy military investment, which he then lost, unfortunately for him. Got a nice castle timing, but as you mentioned, there wasn't a reinvestment into manas, which, I mean, I'd argue at this point you definitely have to. When you're moving out onto the gold, onto the berries, onto the fish, this is where you really want to have those manas with the passive generation. You have to use them as gathering buildings to really get the most out of Lancaster nowadays, or you risk just falling flat out behind and getting out-tempoed by a civilization like the Ottomans. And with the way the economy is looking, and the way the military is now looking, Puppypaw looks in prime position to slowly begin closing out this game.
Yeah, Benjamin does not want to make this a quick day, it would seem. You know what, I think this is the residual effect of playing Lancaster. You're like, oh no, I'm down quite a bit, but always got that passive income strat, and then you remember, oh wait, no, this is the new Lancaster. I can't, for example, be 30 economy versus 100 and win the game anymore. Interestingly,
neither player cares whatsoever about relics turns out. Puppypaw has an Imam on the field. I'm pretty sure that's newly trained. I'd be very surprised if the Imam survived for this long. But hasn't yet picked up relics with them yet. Sipahi? Oh no, not the fortitude. Anything but the fortitude, KP.
It's false advertising, Myriad! There's nothing fortitude about it! You take more damage and you do more damage. That's not fortitude, okay? I'm calling out the dev who named that. He's never played a D&D campaign in his life. Come on. It's ruining my immersion.
It should be called Chug Ottoman Coffee, with the way they start attacking.
Just call it Speargo Brewer. It's close enough.
Fitting as well.
I mean, just call it Frenzy, right? Like, it's a Frenzy.
Frenzy quite effective, right? Yeah, that's quite a, it's, you know, there's precedent for that as well.
fact that he's just like, oh, I'll take the Janissaries against your Yeoman really says everything about Puppypaw's position, because it's not exactly considered a good element for your comp. Was that the Janissary point? Did he actually use the Vizier point for that? Because it was a very specific number. Yeah, he did. He actually did. What? All right, well, Puppypaw seems to definitely believe the game is over now.
Yeah, that is when you would take that Vizier point, right? When you think that it doesn't even matter that they're not that useful, just extra military numbers to pad here, similar to how you would take the Akinji. He's got to stand his ground now, but the Mektab has fallen. This army isn't as strong as it could be from Puppypaw. Yeah, the Sipahi connect. They go straight past the front line. There's no spears, no stopper, and they are directly on the back. Fortitude again gets activated. Clearly the tank here, Kappa, as now the Yeomen will begin falling like flies.
You know what it is? It's Fortitude because it's a fort that is falling on you. If a fort fell on you, you would die. It's that simple. It's the only thing that makes sense here. 8 villager lead still for Puppypaw. Hasn't really been able to extend it much further. But we are still not playing Mana Lords yet. We're Age of Empires. Look at the count. He has got 1 mana at 24 minutes into the game as House of Lancaster. That's the difference these days.
You wonder, Puppypaw has plenty of food in the bank. Is he crazy enough to go Imperial Age here? I mean, it wouldn't be that crazy, honestly, but it would feel kind of unnecessary, right? When I think he can kind of just kill DeMu just outright if he just keeps investing and pushing here.
He's like, what Vizier point next? Maybe we do get those Akinji. That sounds like a good idea. Maybe the Great Bombard? That should do it.
The Great Bombard is definitely a good start to start really breaking in Demu's base here. He just continues to mass Yeomen, and Yeomen are just fantastic, right? But at the end of the day, with nothing else really to support them, they can only do so much against, well, one of the best cav civs in the game.
And the Sprions, like, well, the good news for DeMu is the Sprions seem to like targeting, what, a building and then a crossbow one at a time. But the archer count, I think the crossbow archers have done it. Like, Yeomen, they're running out of places to run here. He just doesn't have the answer to the trickle of knights coming, and it's oh god. Just go next. We're done here. Mine. Okay.
Yeah. This is. I think when he notices, it's yeah. If he does, but let me just look. There's so many attack things left, right, and center. And GG is called. Puppypaw strikes back with force in an unexpected matchup, actually, with Ottomans, proving it's very much doable here. And takes the win against Demu's arguably best civilization in his pool, up on Kerlaugar, now tying the series up 1-1.
And it's reminding us, like, look at the stats from the game number 1. King of the Hill was so fast. I mean, if we see the stats, like, it's double the length. And, you know, there were moments where, like, DeMu kind of followed this trajectory, wasn't there? Where he was building the lead, and then all of a sudden it just catapults back against him. It's a rude, brutal reminder of, like, how hard it can be to get around the back of the base. When you switch to Yeoman, I feel like often it's because Lancaster is in the kill point of their strategy. That's not what we really saw here from Ben. We saw him going into Yeoman, feeling confident early on, and ultimately getting punished by the best like having the game.
I think it was a really good idea in the position that he was in to go into those Yeomen, right? But going so ham on aggression and military, forgoing your economic upgrades when you know you want to stay in feudal for a long time. As we mentioned, you have to get a really good fight to really make that worth it. But a player like Puppypaw is not going to allow a fight on bad terms, right? It's just not going to be possible to force that fight, especially with infantry up against mainly cavalry-focused composition. And eventually you get impatient, as we see here, and you feel like you understand that you're in a position where you have to get some value out of your investment. And oftentimes that leads to some overstepping of boundaries, and that could result in this. From this point on, it felt like DeMu just couldn't quite get back into that leading position that he found himself in earlier. And Puppypaw, bit by bit, built up a lead further and further with these raids. And slowly and steadily, the result we can see.
Well played by him. Puppypaw, just another player showing us just how dominant Ottoman's becoming. It's a civ that just keeps leveling up every single week that the year goes on. I mean, it's crazy to think the position this civ was in at the end of 2024, right? Like back then, it was kind of trash. Like, you know, with the Pro Scouts meta in particular, everything around it. most people would just not even opt for it. It was more flavorful pick for 1 or 2 players. But now it feels like something that everyone has at the front board of their agenda. But
It was just so slow, right?
It was really slow. But then people, I think we talked about at the start of the day, the Knights of Cross and Roses buffing horseman animations, I think made people take another look at it. And the cavalry meta has continued to take over ever since, actually.
Speaking of interesting changes and unexpected civilizations, we have Frisian Marshes next as the map of choice here for DeMu. And Knights Templar in this 250 wood per dock economy feels a bit, I don't know. You know, I don't want to question a play that is better than me. But I question this. But at the same time, we have Abbasid, right? So what do I know?
True. So cheap dock versus very expensive dock. Like Myriad, I have a video that I'm like, oh, this will probably get posted. I was like, what would the, you know, you've been the YouTuber that we are, I was like, what would a good title be for this? Because it's a video about the harbors, the new dock that costs 250 wood. And I think if it does go live, I've settled on the title. Oh, look, a new building that you never actually want to have to build. It is so expensive. It's not without its merits, right? Because the new harbor has 500 more HP and it has 2 fire armor. So the concept is that it's Dark Age rushable. But trade-off is on Frisian Marshes, you're only getting so much food for every single dock you build. So it really puts a damper on your timing. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see something like DeMu maybe going 1 dock and then teching, or maybe no docks at all, teching and then going for them. Because with the recent nerfs to Knights Templars wood gathering, it feels a lot better to get out of the Dark Age faster.
Yeah, exactly. And the issue that arises really is, on water maps especially, right? The harbor, I think, is actually incredible, especially on the defense with that extra health. But on a map like Frisian, essentially, Templars were undoubtedly really, really potent on Frisian Marshes beforehand. I wouldn't say they were the best civ on Frisian Marshes, but now I would even argue whether they're above average on Frisian Marshes anymore. It's just so expensive. And yeah, shoreline fish gather rate was buffed specifically for ships. Is that enough to justify 100 extra wood for the dock? I question it, frankly.
You get a spring on placement, Myriad. You get a spring on placement.
Only worked against land units, right? Then maybe we're cooking, but
hey, I've seen a bug. Somehow it can actually happen. Wait, no, was it? Yeah, the flaming springles actually do attack land things. They attack wildlife. I don't know how. We had a Golden Heights game the other day where it just started shooting wolves. So
yeah.
Off. There you go, guys. My favorite part about the flaming springle, by the way, is like it's only 20% more damage than arrow slits, but it's a flaming springle. So you know, like power points for looking cooler, it's twice as powerful in our brains.
I'm curious to see what Puppy has in store, though, as we load into game number 3 here, in our second series of the day here at EGC Masters Final. As Puppypaw, in the color red, loads up into the Frisian Marshes here in the north side of the map, as the Abbasid dynasty, facing none other than DeMu, in the color yellow, as the Knights Templar, spawning towards the southeastern side of the map. And we are Frisian Marshes, as we mentioned. Quite a unique little map. Not one you will see on ladder, unfortunately, but quite a fun map regardless. Went through many changes historically. And this is its current iteration today. Quite based around those fish that we see here. A lot of food on this map, KP. All up for grabs. Generally quite safe for either side. So food is plentiful, and because of this, it can lead to some pretty action-packed games and not often early decided. But arcade shenanigans are common.
It's also a map that got buffed, remember? Because Shoreline Fish now has 100 extra food over what it used to. So those timings around fishing last a lot longer than it did previously. I feel like we're kind of at a point where it feels objectively bad to not be doing this, in conjunction with the gathering speed buffs on Shoreline. But we have got DeMu moving out. Now, I think the goal here is going to be to go to the back corner. Because your harbors are really expensive, you don't want to build them closer to where your enemy could attack them.
There's a good point to be made for that, especially if you start to work your way backwards with the docks to cancel out the fact that initially you moved for so long. But the ever-present issue is still there of just how sheerly expensive they are. So
Yeah,
then we'll look to invest into it.
Now, that's interesting that you chose close. Because my thought here is, like, you know what would feel really bad for these more expensive docks that burn through your early economy? A military wing. Military wing would be pretty damning against these, no?
We saw it from Iobids as well, historically, right? With the reinforcement, even the scout itself, if in position, can actually start to build the ram even before the Desert Raider gets there to start it. So actually, Iobids have an even faster ram timing than Abbasid do, despite having less units to do so. Abbasid could be pretty similar. You arguably have a bit of a stronger starting unit stack with the double archer as well as the 2 spearmen. The timings, I think, can be very interesting as to how this works out. I think if you get the ram and take out the dock, it's definitely worth it. But what's the follow-up after that, right?
I'm imagining ponies. I feel like this is a classic complete the triangle, because you know Knights Templar at the end of the day want to go archers. The question is actually going to be like what DeMu is going to tech with. We've seen some Chevalier play. I haven't been convinced. I think like that's like the whimperings of a dying man. It feels like most of the meta shift was going towards Hospitaller. And some people even actually considering Antioch now with the recent increase from 10 to 15% damage buff on melee units.
It's quite nice. It's quite nice and scales very, very well, right? You don't have that early economy from the Knights Hospitaller wing. You don't have that early prowess from having the Chevalier Confrère up in the Feudal Age. But that extra damage is very noticeable later in the game, especially as you build more and more melee units. So that could definitely be a choice on the cards here for DeMu. What really surprises me, however, is the lack of spearmen, especially with Puppypaw opening with dock here. I mean, sure, their docks are cheaper, so taking them down doesn't let you as much value as it would for other civilizations if you burn it down with spearmen. And of course, because of the recent change especially, your dock will be even further delayed if you are DeMu. But if you can, in my mind, if you can stop fishing, why wouldn't you?
Oh, melee wing is on the way. Wood being gathered. Decent pacing, but that could just be for more pawn play. So far, as you stopped on the 1. This is another thing that was actually nice about this new version of Frisian, the EGC version. It actually buffed the bastards because you reliably always get berries where you can place a dock. So all of a sudden, a villager doesn't feel that they need to keep walking around building docks or walk home. They can confidently stay out on the berries where they get a buffed gathering rate.
Exactly right. One of the reasons why Byzantines is a bit of an underappreciated pick on this map as well, I would say, outside of a few players. Can do quite well in some matchups. Other people looking to eke out maximum bonus from a civilization on this map with the cheaper docks and undoubtedly the berries later on, like you mentioned. Now going for a second dock onto the third pond. Military wing 15
France,
seconds out now.
Yeah.
Indeed it is. Which makes sense to me, right? I mean, I think honestly, Knights Templar would have a really hard time contesting Abbasid in Feudal with Boot Camp if they don't have access to the Confrère.
Yeah. It's just tricky. Like, I think when you add fishing economy in, it makes it quite easy to just add a camel archer into the format, right? And then all of a sudden, like, I usually call them plastic knights. At that point, man, it's cardboard knights. Like, you guys, you barely tickle.
Yeah. But the nice thing about having access to the Confrère, especially, it makes it so easy for you to lean into a very reliable composition, right? Confrère and archers, right? You can't go wrong with it, really, in most situations. And that's exactly what Demo's going to look to do, as the archer range and the stable both come up immediately upon the age of finishing. We don't have a pilgrim just yet, so obviously it's quite expensive initially. You can't usually afford both your production buildings and the pilgrim at the same time, so Demo once again prioritizing the military approach here, still sitting on that singular dock.
He's trying to use it as a bait point for a fight. Like, hey, here's my dock, come and contest it. Also, please, I don't want to have to build more docks, so please give me value here, because this thing cost me an arm and a leg.
Yeah. Well said.
But for that increase in 100 wood cost, Murad, he does get a different named building.
And Harbor just sounds cool, man.
It does, right? Like, yeah. It's a bit confusing when you're in a pond that you're a harbor, though, you know? Considering, like, what the technical definition of a harbor is.
Yeah.
Because, I'm just double check, yeah, it's a place on the coast where ships may moor in shelter.
Oh, pretty small coast, that's for sure.
It's a really small coast.
I do want to say though, one thing I'd love to see with a harbor, maybe a slight visual change. You know,
I would say the same thing. It's like literally the same model. They didn't add anything.
It's a unique building at the end of the day, right? Yeah. It's very different than a dock in many ways, but it looks exactly the same. I don't know about a larger model size. That would, in theory, it makes sense, but I think it's there's too many negative implications for that.
I think
especially
you just add a taller wall, right? So it almost looks like the whole thing is fortified.
Yeah, taller
and then I'm
wall.
like, oh yeah, that makes
taller
sense.
tower,
Like,
maybe.
okay,
You know,
just
I got a bigger tower than you.
Can we just make the tower 3 times larger? You know, was that insecurity when someone comes up next to you on Hull Island and docks next to you?
He's overcompensating for something.
Of course they are. Why else do you pick Knights Templar?
Arch numbers are swelling quickly. Puppypaw did lean into the horseman as we suspected. He's gonna prioritize an undermesh very early here. Does see the archer commitment from DeMu. Still no pilgrim yet for him. To be fair, doesn't quite have the control to ensure that safe passage just yet for that pilgrim. He's gonna wait to get up those archer numbers. What we're looking for is critical mass, of course, being able to one-shot those spearmen, and then a few extra as a buffer if those archers do begin to fall. Speaking of falling, the villager is likely to have met his demise here as the horsemen charge in. Well, Freya are there to meet, but they're not going to be enough to actually stop the horsemen.
So pricey loss there. Nothing really gained for DeMu. Meanwhile, behind this, we're just seeing Puppypaw styling with more and more of these pawns being allocated towards him. He went for the full left side corner. I think, has he got the worker out there still? He might. Like, it's a popular strat now just to walk your villager all the way to the corner and then essentially build back towards your base.
Yeah, it's a nice little issue, right? Because it doesn't seem like a big deal, but just moving your scout all the way there to check if the villager is there and then moving a unit, keeping track of that villager with your scout whilst also not getting surprised towards the center of the map by military or anything of the sort is not that easy to do. So, you know, it does require a lot of effort from the opponent to actually deal with. It makes perfect sense here for Puppypaw to do. And as you mentioned, those cheaper docks coming in so clutch here for Puppy. Able to swell his fishing numbers, and it's already reflected in the food income. Those two pretty much doubling DeMu at this point in time.
The beautiful thing, right? Like, if you think about it, this is the true polar opposites of like ability to expand fishing. It doesn't get more like opposing than this. You know, you've got the Arabic Civ that gets cheaper docks that has better early economy anyway, versus most expensive dock in the game.
Yeah, it's a bit of a. I mean, we're literally talking 3 times the price, just over 3 times the price. It's kind of ludicrous.
Yeah, 3.33 to be exact. So by the time that I filled out all my pawns, you could have done 2, the same price.
And the numbers, right? This is what we're talking about. Spearmen, horsemen. It's just a melee blob, and with bootcamp, it makes it so much more annoying for these archers to actually keep that mass, to keep one-shotting them. Oh no, this is disastrous, KP. The horsemen! They're completely out of position. The archers!
And the Chevalier, they can't hang around. The spearman ball is so big. He runs into them to mess it up, but that means you're in full melee range with your archers.
It couldn't get any worse here for DeMu in game number 3. Put completely out of position here with his military mass. Exactly what you want to avoid in this exact composition matchup. Ranged and cav against full melee cav and spearman. This is what you hate to see, getting caught out of position. And because after that, matching the numbers again feels virtually impossible. Considering you're behind in food as well.
Yeah, the Chevalier just getting outnumbered here. He's going to reinforce enough to scare Puppypaw back. But like the other crucial thing here is like, he's only upside for him is that the Phalanx wasn't there. Like if Puppypaw had Phalanx in that fight, it's so much cleaner the other side. The lead is so much bigger. He hasn't got it now coming for the follow-up fight. And the torches are out. Now this is where the buffs come in, Myriad. 500 more HP, 2 fire armor, an unkillable, ginormous harbor.
Yeah, it's gonna make sure that that demo that's in production for DeMu's demo is gonna come out here. But yeah, Puppy knows, he knows.
But they have no weapons for range. Therefore, they can not fight us. That right there, that demo ship is like when you get into a fight on the playground and then you run and hide behind your dad's leg. Okay? So, like, that protects it. However, the problem you've got here is, like, what Puppypaw was doing is kind of the equivalent of now saying, okay, instead of fighting the playground, I'm going to hit the gym for a few years, and then I'll be strong enough to beat up your dad as well, because he's getting ready to go castle, and he's also going to go beat up your little brother on the playground. He finds the workers on the gold. He might actually get the pin here, uses the building as against him, moves with the flow, and eliminates 4.
Beautiful stepping there by Puppy. Yeah, picks up the 4 villagers. 3 villages there. Like you said, the one was picked up earlier near those ponds, and Puppy just set himself even further in the lead in this game. I was about to say earlier, I'm looking forward to the day, I just know it's coming, KP, when demo ships will gain a kamikaze ability for them to just like ram themselves into the shore to go and land a little bit and just explode.
They just catapult, they do a little hop skim, like, you know, when you skim rocks. They just detonate. Yep. Oh my god, like, I'm trying to figure... Like, what does that remind me of? It's like little shaky charge up, and then they'd hop and explode. It's almost, you know, it's like an Angry Bird, really, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We just need enough wind speed, right, to carry those lighter sails all the way past the shore.
Maybe one of the fishing boats just like topside so that they can use it as a ramp, get a bit more airtime.
Torturing on the way now for Puppy.
Yeah, and DeMu, he has got the bigger army currently, but it's primarily archers. Get dicey. The dive. Outpost galore is going to be strong. Spearman. Get the pin. New one, though. Pull back. Gold is about to be exposed here. The berries as well. Full garrison on both of the outposts. The Chevalier count is not that high. DeMu needs some worker kills in and out, but he's just not finding them here. Puppypaw is still successfully raiding with 1 horseman. That's going to be a 2nd kill for him. Gets the stab just in time.
Did this 1 horseman just pick up 3 villager kills by himself?
He did. He like that right there. Like, get that guy a post-mortem medal. Right? Medal of Valor? We need something that sounds more like Arabic. I don't know.
Bravery in this case, I think, right? I mean, he just went ham by himself all the way in the reinforcement line.
You imagine getting pinned for a medal? Like, and this day, we honor Timothy for massacring those unarmed villagers. You know, it doesn't really have the same tone to it when you get that much depth. But, you know, he is a war hero, I guess.
Yeah, he's just a shell of his former self, right? Just so many injuries to recover from, and he gets tapped in. You know, he gets a tap on the shoulder. He's like, good job, kid. You did good.
Yeah, he's like, I was great at slaughtering those unarmed people. But luckily, he won't have to deal with years of PTSD, as he is now post-mortem awarded. So, raid are going to come in. DeMu hasn't really been able to kick the same way. And to make matters worse, the upgrades, they may not be being rushed here, but the Lancers are. Puppypaw is just going full heavy cav to show these plastic knights what real men look like. DeMu, hard commits. Spearman line has been finned quite well. Still, there's some horsemen littered in there. The knights are now hitting the field, and this is where things begin to get grim.
The knights is just so difficult now for DeMu to deal with these units. There's no real hope of a Spearman switch. I mean, it's heavily underway, but this just delays his castle way further, right? Spearman, 60 food each. Sounds cheap, but not when you're a full age behind and you're on a timer as to when these Lancer numbers for Puppy get severely out of hand. Oh, and he's going for essentially the most premium composition you can have as Abbasid outside of just Camel Riders as well. The Camel Archer and Lancer combination. Now that is one way to really finish off DeMu.
Yeah, and of course those Camel Archers are going to be nice against DeMu's spears anyway. I mean, funnily enough, he could have maybe just littered in Golem Lancers as well. This pads you just in case your opponent is thinking about like going castle and going crossbows. That's now coming in, Lancers. More than willing to oblige here. Spearman count isn't high yet. Second wave is starting to arrive. But the perfect... Oh, God. Of all the ways they could have went. Come on. The Lancers. Just play ring-a-ring-a-rosies with them. So much wasted time on a singular spear. And the count for DeMu is still higher. But the quality here is undeniable for Puppypaw.
Yup. And with the Camel Archers hitting the field, the few chefs that DeMu does have left won't do much for him. Puppypaw could very easily pivot into archers as well now, reinvest into them. The veterancy can be coming in, as well as composite bows, right? He's going to make his archers so much better than DeMu's. There's just very little left for DeMu in this game, unfortunately. As he now looks to make another push here, just desperately to try to find some damage. But the towers, as earlier, are still there. They're still menacing. They're still shooting arrows. And there's way more knights than earlier.
Yeah, and the backstab comes through. He arrives just in the nick of time to make this an easy, clean fight. Camel archers are at least going to get sniped down. 2 shots to take them out. The spear count on the front side, I think DeMu's maybe got like maximum 3, 4. He's going to dive past though. Archers chasing onto the deer workers. So he pulls away. He knows his army's eventually going to lose. But he wants to make sure Puppypaw has to lose an arm and a leg as well. Have a game of Ring of Roses? Maybe? Nope. Puppypaw just gets shivs out. He's like, fine, screw it. I've still got fishing. I've got knights. What have you got left?
The curved swords slicing and dicing through the entirety of the mass here from DeMu, who again looks to reinvest into archers and spearmen. It's kind of the only option he has. It's a losing option, unfortunately, in the long run. It's just getting worse and worse, but
there's
not really much else he can do.
There's a really big reason why it's a losing comp. Like, have you just seen on the map what Puppypaw's been doing? Remember we said it was like 3.3 docks to 1? Well, he's trying to rely on that maths correctly. Like, Puppypaw is taking docks from DeMu's side of the map. He has so much food potential here.
That is when it starts getting really, really difficult. When your opponent is actually able to do this, or even towering, that's just mean.
He's like, oh, you got there first? I'm not going to mess around with that. Here, let me build an outpost so these guys are safe, you know? I wouldn't want anyone to harm them other than me. Knights? Whoa. Okay. He doesn't even care that there's a lot of spears. He just spreads it out. A clicks through. Monkey noises and an ooga booga as now military lead with Puppypaw. And series lead just a few moments away, it feels like. As a few archers arrive to clear the little spears left. And now the economy fully exposed.
Puppypaw showing exactly the capabilities Abbasid do have in the right environment here. Taking on a somewhat one-sided game, I have to say, here in game number 3. Yeah. Really putting on a clinic as to how to execute Abbasid to the full extent here on Frisian Marshes. Now diving with no fear at all underneath DeMu's capital town center. The remnants of DeMu's army, if you can even call it that, are now also being cleaned up, and the TC itself is no longer safe here for DeMu.
Yeah, I think he's just going through the motions now. DeMu never want to be accused of just quickly GGing. He did get the outpost up to contest the votes. Lancers are going to force more out of time. Got a few Chevys plus Spearmen coming out, but always remember, this guy is an entire race behind him. Like, this feels like the death throes.
Exactly. More and more economy falling here for DeMu. Soon enough, he's going to be more than 20 economy behind. Doesn't even notice his villagers getting hit on the deer. There's so many attack beams going on, and GG is cold. Puppypaw takes the lead after a rough start in this set, finding himself 0 game, well, 1 love down, I mean. Now claws back and takes the lead with 2-1 and finds himself 1 game away from match point. DeMu, what does he have planned for this final game? Potential final game.
It's going to have to be something big, something impressive. I mean, Puppypaw, like bringing a Bastards out and just flexing Knights Templar like that. I mean, part of it goes down to Knights Templar and how they look on Frisian now. You discussed it at the start. But it's still just impressive, I think, in a lot of people's eyes. And you said it was snowbally, it was one-sided. This was the fight that decided it. Like, just such great timing. Puppypaw was on a trajectory. It's like he predicted the strike point a minute ahead of time and then just played it out, drifting towards it always. And, this is pre-phalanx. Technically, this was a spearman at the weakest. It was technically the best moment for DeMu as well, having the steel arrow up. And yet, it still didn't matter. From here, it just felt like we were watching DeMu scramble to try and find a way back in the game from that point.
We do have our upcoming matchup already as well, and it's a classic one of that, KP. Dry Arabia as well, and it's going to be French for DeMu up against Puppypaw's Delhi Sultanate. I have to say, this matchup, I think, even today, does favor the French a little bit. That feudal age is so difficult, I think, for Delhi to contest as long as the French just keeps a level head regarding their army positioning.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think with Delhi, they usually just have to go spear Ghazi and look for a good strike point. And then maybe you eventually end up at the 1-1-1. But like I think the one point where you maybe have the biggest opportunity to one-up French is the spear Ghazi timing. And then if you fail that, like it turns into a gradually scaling economy, right? Another big important thing to remember is like French players, they have started to move out onto the map now again, instead of just relying on pro scouts. I think this is a matchup where I wouldn't be surprised to see DeMu going pro scouts because the Ghazi raiders are a big threat. So you're either going to have to add in outposts or you're going to have to stay at home. Against other civs, like for example, if it was an Abbasid opponent, you just go out and deal and you don't care, right? Because you know they're going to have to defend, and it's your knights that are the only raiding threat.
Yeah, that's right. That crucial detail could impact the game quite a lot going forward. Of course, going into Pro Scouts nowadays, even back then, it does slow down French quite a bit in this kind of a matchup especially. It can be dangerous. It's the same problem we were talking earlier in the Rus against Delhi matchup, where your knights being out so slow can be very tricky, right? And, you know, if you take a little bit too much damage on them from the Ghazi, suddenly you have to delay more of your knights even further by investing into chivalry, which also doesn't feel great investing into unless it's after you did a great dive and suddenly found a lot of damage with low HP knights. Easier said than done in this matchup. Very interested to see how this will go. But going into the Pro Scouts also, as you mentioned, makes a lot of sense because Delhi eventually get it for free, right? And if you don't have the space to vacuum up your deer in time, as the French, which typically you should do, to be fair, then they can be up for grabs for the Delhi. And as you mentioned before, being behind in food is bad enough. Being behind in food when your opponent has extra, literally stole your food, that's pretty rough.
Interesting if you get some sort of miracle spawn where it's boring deer on one location, because then you could argue like outpost drop move out and then just accept it needs to be protected. I do think French has like an ace up their sleeves, like on a spearman time of their own in this matchup. If you see your opponent doesn't want to go archers, you can like weirdly enough litter in your own spears to just buffer the front line as well. Like actually, weirdly enough, I've seen more players going French spears in the last 2 weeks than I have in like the last 4 months. Something is definitely starting to happen. I don't want to say it's at the popularity level of French mirrors. You remember those days where it was like you'd start off with knights and then by 30 minutes in, you'd have 50 spears on each side. God, that was a dark timeline in French.
Yeah, those are the days, huh? Those were the days. Spears is an interesting question here. I think I want to say this is one of the most hotly debated topics when it comes to French is when you're up against a Cav Civ, but your knights are just better. Do you go spears? Do you not go spears? Right? That's the question. I would argue it's not a mistake. In a way, it actually makes the micro both harder and easier at the same time. Because you got to make sure those spearmen give you some value, so you got to keep them alive and actually protect your archers with them. But then it also makes fully maximizing the control of your archers as well as your knights harder at the same time. I'm curious to see what DeMu's choice is going to be here.
I'll have to see. We're just a few seconds away from the purest of pure. It's dry Arabia time to weten up this series. Let's see if we can whet our appetite and get DeMu back on the board to force a game 5. Can the French deliver? Or is the Delhi going to bring it to a stop?
DeMu going for the wheelbarrow opening here, actually. Now, I find this interesting because a lot of players are still going for this wheelbarrow opening whilst still not going pro scouts, which I guess it makes sense because it doesn't really delay you that much, but it still delays you, right? If you don't go for pro scouts, I don't personally see the reason not to just get it very old school, where you do it whilst you're aging up. It's going to finish in good time, but you just have your knight out like at least 10 seconds earlier, which I find to be pretty important, especially in this kind of a matchup. So this might mean that DeMu is going pro scouts, but I think the likelier alternative is that he probably isn't going to go pro scouts. I'm sure, you know, it's not the biggest deal, but yeah, I just find it a bit strange that we haven't gone back to how it was.
It's interesting because, like, in my mind, though, the way I see it is, like, technically, wheelbarrow still has value because if you're not going pro scouts, you're probably going mass knights. And that means you have to keep shifting more workers out to the gold, right? So there's an initial walkover that's pretty annoying. Even Archer follow-up. Like, in some ways, Pro Scout Wheelbarrow felt weirder. Because the whole concept behind Pro Scouts is that your villagers don't need to move because you're bringing the deer back. So Wheelbarrow is only useful if you're walking. But if there's no walking, you don't need it. So yeah, it's always been like a weird one. But the reason why French just do it is it's just also dirt cheap, right? Like, they pay, if they go Pro Scouts and Wheelbarrow, they pay the same that someone would just to get Pro Scouts.
Yeah, it's the price, right? It's so cheap, and yeah, you mainly get it for the speed, but the extra carry capacity is also pretty nice, right? It's not nearly as good as something like extra drop off or extra gathering rate, but it's it still saves you some walking time and boosts your economy just that little extra bit. So still quite nice for them to go for it.
I think maybe it's like a defensive tool as well. It's like,
Yeah.
when you're planning to open nights
Sure.
against Ghazi, it means you don't have to keep at home because your workers can always escape.
I'm curious to see if we can maybe get a little look at the sheep count, highlighting the 1x1 sheep. Very important in this kind of a volatile, aggressively based matchup. It's like we have 14 total here for Puppypaw. 3 of them are carcasses. As for DeMu, so far,
I've seen French games like this before. I've seen now. I know what you do in French games like this. It's very simple. You reach underneath your table and you pull the power out of your PC.
That is an apt choice of the next course of action, because this is quite bad for DeMu, I have to say. Being behind in sheep, immensely behind, I have to say, in this kind of a matchup is a horrible position to find yourself in, especially because it's not like you started on there, and it's not like your there are in a great spot anyway. I mean, the one in the north is not horrible. It's kind of bad that it's behind the wood line. Extra walking time to it, harder to defend it. But the second one is terrible, right? All the way to the south. Compare that to Puppypaw's. I mean, his is not great either, but his starting one is directly in front there. That's a bit harder to contest, but his second one is way safer than DeMu's.
Hey, but like,
And the
French,
berries on the left.
yeah, that like French are a great berrying sip, right? Like you could just eat berries the whole time. That's gonna feel great, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they can cancel out the extra walking time with the cheaper mills, right? Or with that early wheelbarrow, because you have to walk half a screen from the furthermost berries towards the mill normally.
I mean, it has to be Pro Scouts. Like, even if he wasn't originally planning it with the sheep spawns,
Yeah.
there's no doubt you're doing
And
it.
so it is. Yeah. Makes,
Don't
yeah, I
coming
think
in.
it's forced.
Did Puppypaw go double mill? He did, yeah. So he's going to try to race the timing as well.
Yep. Makes a good deal of sense here, right? Delays your Ghazi just a little bit, but ensuring that you actually get those Pro Scouts in quick time whilst, being able to gather well from the sheep with that horticulture is quite valuable here. I still think it's a very good thing to go for in most cases as Delhi, especially if you can make it a very efficient mill to cancel out the extra walking time around those berries. First Knight has hit the field and is going to move directly towards Puppypaw's base. The stable is not up just yet for Puppy, so this Knight will find more value than he really should be able to. And Scout follow-up for them as expected to capitalize on his soon-to-be finished Pro Scouts. The Ghazis are now in production, and in this situation, even moving here with the Knight is generally a little bit scary for the French player if you go Pro Scouts, because just right now, as this Ghazi charge connects, there's really no reason for Puppypaw to actually back off with the Ghazi. I mean, I think he's probably expecting a second Knight soon. He doesn't know about the Pro Scout, but in theory, he could just stick onto that Knight until the Ghazi is one hit away from death. And that Knight lost at least a third of its health, if not more. And then the second Ghazi comes, and the third, and the fourth. And if DeMu's not quick enough, that Knight will die very quickly before he reaches back to the base.
The only catch, obviously, is because his scout's on the other side of the map. He probably doesn't want to run that risk, especially around the tree line. The second Knight comes through, catches him off guard. So I kind of see where Puppypaw's come from. And also, he might be now aware that's Pro Scout. So instead of wasting time this first Knight, he wants to try and stop the scouts getting home. Unfortunately for him, DeMu has already snuck the bag back. 3 deer already underneath the PC.
It's very important to get those first few deer back, right? Because having that boosted gather rate straight away enables you to move your villagers further onto gold, start getting those upgrades, and knights in earlier and earlier onto wood as well to get those archers. I have to say, this archer's transition from them already is... Ooh, as I say that though, there's a raid coming in. Idles out the gold a little bit. Nice little strike there by Puppypaw. But this archer switch already prematurely. I mean, we probably will see spears. But ideally you want to wait until you see the barracks, don't you?
Yeah.
Because in reality, Puppypaw could even go double stable here, and it's going to be pretty hard for DeMu to contest, I think, initially.
I think the assumption is like, hey, you know, he's going to have to do it. I'm going for knights because I have deer. Like, if I didn't have deer, he maybe thinks he'd get away with double Ghazi. But it's that little factor, isn't it, right? It tends to feel a bit more threatening because of the gathering rate being so much better compared to sheep. Ghazi. Didn't get the body blocker. DeMu's going to want to drop off fast. You don't want to die carrying that thing right now. There's a little bit of an awkward behavior. And nice kill.
Fine. He just dies without carrying it instead. Fortunate. A nice pickup there for Puppy. Blocking around that wood line. Always a very useful strategy to employ. The space have hit the field now. It's going to play it safe. Going to look to keep finding damage and idle time with the Ghazi. Every little adds up, as DeMu is also going to play safe. Just making sure that his deer packs are coming back.
The Spearmen haven't been seen at all yet. Right? Actually, no, sorry, I'm chasing him right now. So, like, yeah, the knight, I think he was already heading in range. So he's still aware. He's happy with the comp now. Like, things overall, like, actually are going pretty well for DeMu. Like, considering this game began with the panic if you only have 5 sheep, I think his heart rate has calmed down a lot in the last 2 minutes.
Yeah. Once you have plenty of those deer in, it's not nearly as bad as it could have been. Because then you have a long time with really good food until the fact that you're overall still low on food actually starts to matter again. You have plenty of time and space to make that day count, which is definitely going to be on the cards here for DeMu. Surprisingly, no investment into further economic upgrades yet for him. Very unusual when playing French, especially because of their tendency to play feudal age virtually every game, but also because of the cheapness of those techs and the fact that all of them are very valuable for them. Instead, heavily investing into knights, so he does have more knights than he normally would at this stage, which could be crucial considering the timing now for the sacred sites.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting actually when you think about pro scouts, and like there's been a lot of calls in the past, more nerfs, more nerfs. I think we've done enough nerfs now. But, like, some people's argument is like it shouldn't even be in the game, and I think this is like a pristine example of why it needs to still be in the game. You know, this game would be not completely over, but pretty catastrophic for DeMu if pro scouts didn't exist because of RNG.
Yeah.
So, you know, until we get a better solution long term for food, this is exactly why pro scouts needs to at least still be situationally viable.
Yeah, having a band-aid on a problem for the short term is fine, right? I do.
Better than let it bleed everywhere, you know.
Yeah, exactly right. That's quite messy. We don't want to see that.
No, but, like, we already have enough English players. I would just give more people like the reason, the justification to become English mains. I can build farms. I'm safe.
Yeah, nice cheap farms. Puppypaw finished his own pro scout tech now, completely for free, of course, as the Delhi. His own day will start coming in. It's likely just going to be a 50-50 handshake, as is common whenever pro scouts is involved for 2 civilizations.
Yeah, and you know, now we get to the point where it starts to become more about the sacred site dynamics, and of course DeMu, he has a good amount of knights to do that. The interesting part is going to be like how he positions his archers each time. Like if you bring them upfield, Puppypaw is going to be fishing for the raid onto said archers, so you have to like keep them close enough they can reinforce the knights, but obviously if you over posture, you could easily just get melted. Like that's always the threat factor against Ghazi.
Yemen gets caught as the knights go to contest the northern sacred site and meet a large massive Ghazi, but there's enough knights and the Ghazis are low enough to where these knights shouldn't really be scared at all. DeMu agrees. However, his knights being in the north does mean that his archers are out of position, and in small skirmishes, again, the same compositional issue as last game results in this. The complete surround, but it's not looking nearly as bad.
It looks really bad right now.
Never
the archers
mind.
just gonna get depleted. It's just a drive-by. Like this is the moment. You're like, oh yeah, this is the okay trade. Like, you literally got a pro player like, yeah, that doesn't look too bad. 2 seconds later, this is the nature of Ghazi hits. And now he can just bypass towards the base. Sure, you're going to lose a Scholar, maybe a few spears. But the dive in should realistically force DeMu to come back.
The Archer Mass has been shaved in half for DeMu, a painful loss, but not as painful as it would be losing those Knights, which I don't really think he's lost any yet, outside of maybe 1, 2 max. The numbers are looking really solid when it comes to Knights for DeMu. That's what he really cares about, so not too bad. Not as bad as it could be, and he picked off a good few of the Ghazis and Spearmen on that retreat, despite losing most of his Archer Mass. Ghazi number is also looking healthy, though. You have to be careful with the surround, the Knights. There's a lot of them are very low HP here. This could be disastrous.
Yeah, he's not sniping the spears either. Like, it's just a cleanup. Like, he's just using the Ghazis as shields. The spearmen aren't really getting sniped anywhere near quick enough. So, heavy losses after that big brag of DeMu being so clean with his Knight usage and management. He loses half of them.
Instantly proving me wrong here, unfortunately, DeMu. It's just... And that's what happens against Ghazis, right? You look away for just a second. Your Knights get surrounded, and all of a sudden, that extra damage against heavy units, you really feel it compared to regular horsemen here. And Puppy, now, with the map control he needs to triple cap the center side as well. Behind all of this, he's had firm control over the northern and the southern sacred side, and now he can look to capture the central one as well. This is the sort of timing where Puppypaw can just invest a little bit further into units, look for those Ghazi raids, and have himself a safe route towards that castle age.
Yeah, and this is where it gets really tricky, right? Like, you know, depleting half your Knight count, now having to wait for Chivalry to top them off. You're probably not thinking about an immediate dive into your opponent's base. Probably not even on the agenda for the next 2 minutes, so that just gives the breathing room that Puppypaw would need to get that tech up for free. And if it triggers, like, you can't risk a dive, like, one War Elephant would ruin everything. So DeMu kind of just got to try to weather the storm, rebuild, but you can see that Puppypaw not giving anything over for free, always just on his tail.
DeMu investing heavily here, but now is when those food struggles are really starting. A problem that had to be put off with those pro scouts is now coming back more painful than ever before. As he almost halves Puppypaw's food income, and at the same time he gets caught yet again. But he has no choice but to try to fight. You can't let Daddy have triple sights. But after the earlier skirmishes, you just no longer have the mass.
He can't kill spears quick enough, Mirad. Like, look at them. They take it forever to bring down. Sure, the Ghazi count has been thinned a bit, but like as you said, triple sacred sight, Puppypaw, okay, let me just buy, and we'll go again. It's just always about keeping that archer count in the gutter. And you'd think that would free up DeMu to raid. But it just means he then has to be worried about a follow-up hit into his eco. This is the free ticket. Puppypaw, full retreat, castle up, and then go from there.
And even the healing is going to come in now. He has pretty much all of his feudal techs, the important ones anyway. So now the scholars are free to start healing the Ghazis as well. DeMu finally in position, simply because he's being allowed to start decapping that southern sacred site. But the news is dire. House of Learning on the way now with 10 for Puppypaw. And he still has more than enough military to keep contesting and retain presence and control on the map. It's a double whammy
gonna let
here for DeMu.
He won't even get the decap.
Yeah.
Grim Tidings as well. Like, we're at the point where the pro scouts is depleted. So he's now playing out into the berries. The deer have already been taken, right? Like, they're pretty much all going to be absorbed from Puppypaw's side. That leaves just boar. The boar is extremely wide spawning on the north side, far out of the base and far out of your territory. That's the learning coming in probably about, what, 20, 30 seconds? Now, so far the DeMu we've seen today is not quick to wave the white flag. I wouldn't be entirely surprised if he just ham fists ascend, and if it doesn't hit, he taps.
Yeah, it would make perfect sense. I can't help but feel just a little bit sorry here for them in this game number 4, right? Just a sheep. In this kind of a matchup, it hurts so much.
It's so weird as well. Like, you look at the destroyed value, it's not that big of a difference. Like, it doesn't feel like it should be that emphatical. You know, same with army value, but it's just the nature of those sacred sites and the extra resource that it just gets you so long.
Yep. It ends up being too much. He doesn't manage to get the central decap, at the very least here Demu does, so... Good to stop with that.
Pick, by the way. Puppypaw, because he's up against knights, he didn't put scholars out on the map already. So it's going to be slow on that timing. But there are still sacred sites that are being held onto. Nice snipe there by Puppypaw hiding the Spearman. Gives an extra gold trickle. And there it is. The thing that ends every person's resistance. A very angry elephant.
Dumbo is soon going to hit the plains of Dry Arabia here. As DeMu gets the bad news and wants to try to sort of keep Puppypaw's army in check here, but just doesn't have the mass to do so.
It does feel pretty difficult. You know, he understands it well. You can't just rush the age up. You have to keep scaling knights. You also have to try and find some trades before these critical upgrades come in. Problem is, with Delhi, with this build, it's always so quick, right? They've already got veterancy across the board. Spearmen, archers, Ghazi. Lance is now getting added in as well. Homeblades, I don't think it's been queued up. In fact, I think, did Puppypaw forget to queue the House of Learning? That is a classic. He did again. It's... and they always win.
It's becoming a bit of a recurring theme, isn't it?
But they always win. That's the insane part. They forget it. They literally win games without it. Like, they didn't even need the landmark.
I do remember a Marine Lord game, which was quite saddening, right? I don't know if you remember that one.
Yeah, don't remind them.
Scouts heyday. Yeah. Let's not bring that one up. But Dumbo leading the charge.
Yeah. It's a slow charge. If only there was a tech he could get out of a building that would make it a faster charge. Ozzy. Gonna keep tickling away at this. Knight's forced to commit. The War Elephant, he's like, let me have a touch, just a touch. There's only so far you can run. DeMu. Now that classic burden of economy. He's got almost 2,000 gold banked up. He's about to get banged up by an elephant.
And it's in this kind of situation where you feel the worst as DeMu not having Spearman. When you get caught a bit by castle timing, one elephant comes out. There's no real hope switching into Spearman at this stage, but if you at least had like 10 to 20, then you can even kind of fight into this mass if you're not in a terrible position. That is not an option this game. These 18 knights, even if they go by themselves to surround that Spearman, that War Elephant, half of them die before they finish killing him, which is just insane to think about. This puppy looking to choke DeMu, knows exactly where his food is.
Oh no.
And there's not much left for DeMu either. These villagers.
We stopped him getting the relic. Okay, that's all that matters. Run, boys, run. Mission accomplished. They're circling. The War Elephant's just been left behind to deal with all the knights. He's going to clash with it. Gets the surround. But there's assistance here, remember. Veteran archers. And he's also soaking the fire with them. He intentionally leaves them in range so the A-click can't surround. And now the Wallow, just to push him away. This is done. GG. A 3-1 victory. Elephanto Funtime does it again.
Puppypaw looking really strong here in his first set in EGC Masters Final. Rough little start to the series, but he bites back, as you would expect. The paw is the law at the end of the day here in this series. Puppypaw. Knowing exactly his dominance that he has been known for historically, up against DeMu this time, who put up a fantastic fight. Bit unlucky in this final game here, but that is the nature of how the game goes sometimes. Of course, not all the hope is lost. DeMu far from out just yet. But for this one, unfortunately, he is.
It's inspirational in some ways, though, right? The pause left him sore, but he was able to prove that the dog could bleed. You know, that first game, really impressive out on DeMu. We talked about this rate of improvement and whether it can pay off. This is his first taste of this in an S-tier tournament after the recommitment to the grind. I think there's some good takeaways here on some unfortunate matchups. You know, I think the Knights Templar Abassa one, we said at the time, it came down to literally just one slip up, one positioning, and that's it. But you know, he'll know as well as anyone else, like at this caliber, at this level of skill, usually one slip up is all it can actually take when you're talking about players like Puppypaw. So just needs to keep improving, keep ramping up, and prep for what comes next. Because you know, we talked about his group. It's not easy. Was it Lucifron's the other player in this group, right? So that's in the current format, I wouldn't say that's easier than Puppypaw. So
no.
Maybe he gets the rematch, or maybe it is Lucifron. But either way, DeMu is gonna have to find a way of powering up.
That's a good effort, you know. I mean, when you go down, you at least don't want to go down 3-0. That never feels good, right?
No.
So that's always at least something you can write home about here, and you can go back to the drawing board and think about this.
It lets you know that something was right.
Time.
You know, like it lets you know that like you you weren't completely wrong, because there's nothing more demoralizing than that 3-0 crit hit that tells you that everything you practiced was wrong. And, you know, it's like a little pep in the step that it was a classic Zushi one for DeMu to do that.